Our speaker is the former mayor of Meridian, Mississippi. He's a longtime leader on behalf of passenger rail. He's co-chairman of Transportation for America, a former chairman of Amtrak Board, and a former member of the Transportation Committee of the National League of Cities and the U.S. Conference of Mayors, as well as a former co-chairman of the National Forum on the Future of Passenger Rail. He's a veteran of the Station Center Community Development Movement and led the drive to renovate the city of Meridian's Union Station, a $7 million historic restoration project that created a new multimodal transportation center, dramatically increased the use of the station, raised property value and city tax receipts, and lowered crime in the station neighborhood. He served on the Reconnecting America's board for 5 years and was founder and partner of the board members of Reconnect America's predecessor organization, the Great American Station Foundation. He now serves as the director of Reconnect America and is probably one of the most knowledgeable people in the country on passenger rail as well as multimodal centers in cities. It's my pleasure to present to you the former mayor of Meridian, Mississippi, John Robert Smith.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Mayor Jones, thank you for that very generous and kind introduction. I want to thank you for the hospitality that the people of Mobile have shown to me in my 2 recent visits in your wonderful community. I also want to thank you for the accommodations you afforded me last night in the presidential suite of this wonderful hotel, the Battle House. I have a familial relationship with the Battle House because my mother and father spent their first night of their honeymoon in the Battle House on their way to Florida from Meridian, Mississippi. So I felt very much at home. I'm afraid they didn't stay in the presidential suite, but I felt very much at home last night, and again, it was so kind of you to make such wonderful accommodations available to me. I also want to salute the work of the Downtown Alliance, to the board, and especially to the staff that actually makes things run every day. Elizabeth, you and your organization have done a marvelous job here. And when I came on my last visit, I brought my son and his wife, and they enjoyed most of the food and drink establishments in your downtown during our visit here, and had nothing but wonderful things to say about your very vibrant downtown. Let's see. There we go. When I decided not to seek a 5th term as the mayor of Meridian, at the urging of my family who had had a gracious plenty of the public's involvement in their everyday life, and after serving 16 years, I was offered the position of president of Reconnecting America, and so I moved to Washington, D.C. about 3 years ago to lead a very bright, energetic staff there in D.C. And you see our mission statement. Reconnecting America is a national not-for-profit that is focused really on how we develop our neighborhoods, our cities, and our region at the connection of transportation choices, economic development, and affordable housing as we look to our downtowns. The most important words there in that mission statement are transform and thriving. We're not about another set of plans to sit on some mayor's shelf and never be implemented. We're actually about helping you create something you can actually ride to a place that you can afford to live. I'm also the managing director of the Center for Transit-Oriented Development, That is the only national not-for-profit whose sole purpose is the research, best practices, and implementation of good transit-oriented development. And as the mayor said, also co-chair Transportation for America. There are 500 partner organizations representing not only the transportation entities, but the healthcare industry, the environmental community, coming together to have impact on federal legislation involving transportation, including MAP 21, which was just passed. The discussion of transportation, and when we work so hard on the Hill to impact transportation authorization, it naturally leads you to the question of, are we there yet? All of us who have parents have heard that plaintive cry from the back seat during family vacation. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Well, it's appropriate to ask ourselves as cities and communities around the country, are we there yet? In developing the kind of thriving city centers and neighborhoods that we want to have. This is the cover of a report that Reconnecting America just issued October the 1st. And you see at the bottom the website of how you can download the full report. And I think you'll find it very interesting, and we'll start a discussion or a dialogue here within this region. Our challenge was really to measure how the metro areas were performing in livability and sustainability. And we looked at 4 categories in the broadest terms: living, working, moving, and thriving. And then we created 33 individual data points so that we could measure from existing data and ultimately assign grades to regions as to how successful they were in getting there to those 4 major points. And we also wanted to compare regions of similar size and demographics. So we're not comparing Altoona to New York City. We created 4 different levels to measure within those cities. And we wanted to concentrate on 2 principal points: complete communities, and that's basically a community that provides to those who live there and work there the things they need every day to thrive as people. And then secondly, within those regions, identify where there are opportunity areas. They're those areas that have the street grid pattern and the infrastructure already in place that will allow them to grow and thrive and become complete communities. This is our page of brief statistics on Mobile. You will see of the Mobile region, there are 3 opportunity areas, which you'll see in purple, and then we've pulled in every region at least 2 out, 1 urban, which is your downtown core principally, and 1 that's more suburban. The grades are for the region, not for just the opportunity area. So you can see you're doing relatively well in the living category, and I know you can't read this from where you are, but basically living, we pulled 2 statistics. If you're moving to the left on that scale, you're not doing as well, and the further to the right, the better you're doing. The percent of households in the opportunity area is an area you need to work on. It's to the far left side. The percent of low-income households in the opportunity area, though, is better as it ranks with other regions. And when it comes to affordable units within the region, compared to your fellow regions, you're really doing quite well. So you received a B in living. In working, while it may look like a small percentage of the jobs in the opportunity area, really compared across this nation, you're doing really quite well in the jobs in an opportunity area. And then in moving, that was your lowest grade. And the mayor alluded to that. That's an area that the mayor is taking personal leadership in across the region as well as in his hometown. That's an area of transportation choices and safety for pedestrians and others to use your infrastructure that needs some additional work. And then thriving, you would have gotten a higher grade in thriving, but a third of the opportunity areas within this region are food deserts, which means you can't get to good fresh food easily. And when you think of your aging population, their ability to get to food without having to have their son or daughter come pick them up and drive them, when it comes to lower income families' access to good fresh food, not just fast food, that's another area that can be worked on. The grades are not intended to condemn at all. They're intended to help you focus on the areas that need additional work and also spur the dialogue, the debate, the pushback within the community as you struggle with some of these issues. The good news is you have such wonderful bones and such wonderful opportunities here in Mobile. You are such a special place if you recognize how special you are and play to those very strengths. One of them we talked about and the mayor mentioned is investment in rail. Well, this is a quote from Warren Buffett, who bought controlling interest in Burlington Northern and Santa Fe, certainly for freight purposes, but the last line, when traffic travels by rail, society benefits. That's as true for passengers as it is for freight, and Mr. Buffett isn't known for making bad investments. So I think that speaks very highly of the impact in economic development that passenger rail or rail in general can have. And as you look at the nation, merging of transportation choices, you see the interstate highways in black, you see the existing Amtrak passenger rail service in green, you see some proposed extensions of conventional service in yellow, and then you see the federally designated high-speed rail corridors in red. Certainly believe that as we look at transportation, all modes of transportation should work together, support each other, and feed into each other. They are not competitors. But as we look at this region, and you have the MSAs in purple on the map, and the blue line is the old Sunset Limited line. And we had a very interesting discussion and debate about the service of the Sunset. And at first, the comments were, we want the Sunset Limited back. But I said, do you really want the Sunset Limited back? It came through 3 times a week, came through odd hours of the night. Really not much service at all. No, what you want is daily service. You want that train to come through at times that make sense for your public. You want to know that it's on time, that is dependable. And I want to, again, salute the mayor for bringing together communities all across the Gulf region to discuss that. But as you look at the rail service there, I want you to understand restoring that passenger rail service can be done. It takes will, it takes determination, and it takes cooperation as a region. It's going to cost. After PREA was passed, federal legislation, Amtrak was ordered that they must recover enough fare box revenue to support the system, or the states through which that system passes must support the shortfall in fare box. So the states will have to recognize that providing this other transportation choice for its people, besides the automobile and besides air traffic, which in many of our smaller communities in Mississippi and Alabama is continually threatened, providing that is an appropriate investment at the state level and the federal level, and at the local level at your station area developments. Others have done this. The state of Washington, the state of California bought their rail equipment with stimulus dollars. Tiger grants have been utilized across the country for rail as well as highway and port investments and infrastructure. And the state of Virginia contracted with Amtrak for a new service from Washington, D.C. to Lynchburg. The state agreed to support any operational shortfall, but the good news is ridership was 3 times what was projected, revenue more than double what was projected, and Virginia has not had to spend any of their state money in support of any revenue shortfall because, in fact, there was no revenue shortfall. I mentioned as we tie those cities together, these are the major cities that are connected, and you see the scores, the grades from Are We There Yet for those other major cities. Some have better scores than others, but there's good work to be done across the board. And the good thing that I think the mayors assembled a month ago realized was if one city gets it right and the others fail, the whole line does not live up to its potential, nor will the region live up to its potential. I mentioned transit-oriented development. Those coined words, it's really simply we create neighborhoods where people can walk or take public transit to the places they work, the places they shop, to educational and entertainment opportunities. In fact, it's creating what we once had and enjoyed in neighborhoods within the downtown.